Hi everyone, this is Margarita with City Gal Papeterie. In today's video, I am going to create 3 Christmas cards using very inexpensive watercolors. Here I begin by prepping my watercolor paper. I will be detailing below the type of watercolor paper that I'm using. It's by Strathmore. I'm outlining the shape of the tree. I want my paper to be wet so that the pigment from the watercolor will flow onto the paper within the wet shape rather than it being absorbed immediately by the paper. I'm using a simple, inexpensive flat brush. These come in a pack from any craft store. And I'm using the Crayola washable watercolors. You may hear my children behind me, which is why it's taken me so long to get this video out. This is a pack of 24 colors. I really like them and they work very, very well. I begin by spritzing all of the colors so that they are prepped and ready for use. And then I just go right ahead and start coloring. I grab some color, I touch the spots on the card that are already wet with the shape that you can now see, which you couldn't see before. And I move my paper around to get that color flowing and to fill in the shape a little bit. I try not to get an even cover. I want it to have some variation and some texture. That I have the outline shape of my tree, I heat set it to dry it. You could also let this air dry. I just want it to dry up quickly because I don't have a lot of time to work on it. And then I felt that the color was too solid, so I come back in with just a clean wet brush, the same flat brush, and I wet just the one side. And I'm trying to just move the color around just a little bit so that it looks more textured and not too like just a solid triangle. And then at this point I felt like I took too much off, so then I come back and I add more color. And so now after adding more color, I felt that the paper was too wet, so I come in with a paper towel and I dab in. Now you see the paper towel has ridges in it and it leaves the mark on the color, and I actually like that, so I put it back onto my paper at an angle, and I'm really happy with how that looks. It has detail in it. It has a variation of lighter and darker shades of the same color. And then with this really nice lavender, I add a bunch of random dots to look like ornaments. I create some of them larger and some of them smaller, and I'm not really thinking about where I'm putting them. I'm just getting them on there just to start to fill in the tree. I also added some darker pink ornaments as well. And now I'm coming in with this gray so that I can create a shadow underneath the tree, so it's not just floating on my paper and it's more grounded. I did make sure that my previous colors were completely dry before starting this. I didn't want the gray to bleed into the green. Not really a green, it's more like a teal color. And so I start out with just a rough shadow. Later on I blend it out just a little bit more. I don't know if I have that on camera, but you will see it later on in the video. With my flat brush again, I grab some yellow and I am just dabbing the very tip of the brush to create a star at the top of my tree. With just the corner of my brush, I dip into the yellow paint and I just touch the tips of each of the points to get a sense of it shining. That's pretty much it for this card. I come back with that same lavender and I just outline the edge of my entire card with 2 lines. If you feel that you want your lines to be very straight, I would recommend using washi tape or a ruler to help you get your lines as straight as you would like. I like to freehand it. I want it to look like it's freehanded. I want it to have a sort of whimsical look to the lines. And so I don't use a ruler or anything, but I do try and use only short strokes so that I'm not drawing one long line with just a one stroke of the paintbrush. Then I come in with a micron marker and I start to add some details to my tree. So just some dashes to give the simulation of the needles of the Christmas tree. And just a few details can actually make a huge impact on something as simple as this, just this Christmas tree here. I can add some wavy lines to give the appearance of garland on the tree, and those also get little dashes on them to make them look kind of fuzzy, almost like those boa type garlands that people put on their trees that are either silver or gold. And that completes this first card created using the watercolors. For my second card, I come in with a round brush and I begin to mark my paper again with the shapes that I want. And I know you can't see them, but you can see there I'm creating circles on my paper with water. And once I add the color, you really get to see exactly where I added those circles. I really like the colors in this palette. I like that I have sort of the basics, and then there's these, secondary type colors, and then I have some pastels to work with also. You can see the color feathering out to wherever the paper is wet. And then I do add second colors to each of the circles. I do lose some of that footage, but I do add a second color to each of the circles, and just trying to keep in mind color theory and just trying to match colors that will go together well and not get muddy. And so here's where you see the result of that. So we have that teal color with some green, the purple, some blue, there's a yellow with orange or red, and then the pink with a little bit of orange, and then some green and yellow, and a gray with pink. So those are the combinations that I used. I felt there was another some space for another one, so I go ahead and add one more circle here. And I'm not sure if you can see where this is headed, but these do become ornaments. And then I pair the yellow up with that really pretty salmon type pink color. I'll check if the package actually has names for these, for each of the colors. I'm not even sure. Again, I bring in my micron marker. This is a 05 sized marker. And I add details to each of these circles so that they resemble ornaments. There's the top of each little ornament. And then for each ornament, I try to create a string that's just starting at the top of the ornament to the top of the card. And I use this piece of cardstock as a guide, but I'm not writing my line against the card, against the paper. I'm just using it so that I know to stay close to it so that my line is straight. But I don't want, again, I'm not looking for a perfectly straight line. I want it to look, hand drawn and not perfect. For this one, I needed a larger piece of paper to guide me. I feel like at this point they kind of look like balloons and not so much ornaments. But they are supposed to be ornaments, but if you want to view them as balloons, I guess you can also. For each ornament, I sketch a different design. And you can see that one has stripes, another has polka dots, and then I go with some pendants and swirls and little cluster dots and some more stripes. And that completes that card. And right now these are not cards, they're just panels that I then later add to cards. For this one I skipped the part where I add the water because you can't really see what I'm drawing with the water, so I just go ahead and show the actual painting portion of the panel. And here I'm creating different size rectangles with multiple colors for each. As you can see, this one's pink and teal, and again I use a lot of the same colors so that they all look like they're part of the same set. Once those rectangles are completely dry, I come in with some washi tape and I cover each of them because I'm now going to add additional rectangles, and I want the appearance, I want to create the illusion that the other rectangles, the new rectangles, are behind the ones that I just painted, but I don't want my rectangles to get muddied or to have the paint overlap. I believe you can also use painter's tape for this. I don't know if that's how cost effective that is, but washi tape works perfectly fine. I do make sure that I scratch it down very well because I want to make sure it doesn't bleed under the tape. And once my tape is all set up and covering my rectangles, I re-wet my paints and I come back in and add some more rectangles. Now that my rectangles are all ready, I bring in the paint. You may hear siren. There's an ambulance driving by. I'm trying my best to stay close to the edge without going over because I don't want it to bleed out again. And even though I put the washi tape, I'm still trying not to touch the edge just for fear of it bleeding under. I wasn't sure if it would or not. Now that my rectangles are all dry, I take off all of the washi tape and I bring in a wet brush and I wet just the very edge of each rectangle or each shape, and I try to push some of the paint down so that it's closer to the other rectangle without actually going over. So I just get as close as I possibly can, and I'm not adding any color here. I'm simply using some water and just shifting the color over just a little bit. For this one I do add a little bit more color to get it closer to the pink rectangle there. I come back in and I add another couple of shapes so it looks more full. And then I felt like this rectangle wasn't low enough, so I add some more color there as well. Just as I did with the tree, I add shadow below all of the rectangles and the shapes that are here. I do blend it out just a little bit so it's not such a dark, deep gray. And I'm sure you can hear my children just behind me. I dabbed some of it up because it was just a little bit too much. And now I come in with a micron marker and I start to add details just as I did with the other two panels. And these all turn out to look like little Christmas presents. These could also go past as birthday presents. I do leave these cards without any sentiments. I wanted to leave it open for interpretation. They could obviously be used as a birthday card, but these are a Christmas card set. Now that they're all complete, I add a mat to the back of each of the panels, and then I add those to card bases so that it will complete the card. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, please give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe. And I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye!